He's been in education for over 40 years, a teacher, a professor, a coach. He's a member of the Concordia University Irvine's Athletic Hall of Fame. And now he's the first ever director of the Servant Leadership Institute. We talk with Dr. Kent Schlichtemeier next on the Masters in Coaching podcast. Let's go. Welcome into episode number 35 of the Masters in Coaching podcast here on iHeartRadio, on YouTube, wherever you are listening or watching right now. We thank you so much. We appreciate it. Make sure you hit the download button to get all the episodes as they continue to come this spring. And we are certainly excited to talk to our guest this week. Dr. Kent Schlichtemeier is our guest, longtime educator, longtime administrator, a coach. He's in the Hall of Fame at Concordia University, Irvine, and recently left his job as the director of education at Concordia University, Irvine to take over the Servant Leadership Institute. And Ken joins us now. Dr. Kent, how you doing?
Well, very good. Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you
Great.
for joining
Thank
us
you.
Here on the Masters in Coaching podcast. First off, before we get into anything else, last fall, I believe you took over this new role, the Servant Leadership Institute. Tell everybody about it. What is this?
Well, our School of Education in 2016 developed a leadership plan where we evaluated our mission, our vision, and our core values. And in both our mission and vision statements, we highlighted our commitment to attracting, equipping, and supporting candidates aspiring to become servant leaders in education. And that was something that we all resonated with because of our commitment to the model that Jesus laid out for us. The night in which he was betrayed, he got down on his knees and he washed feet of his disciples, and he didn't just talk about service, he demonstrated service. So we in our School of Education have focused on this idea of equipping and preparing servant leaders. And then that same year, Tim Baker, one of the executive vice presidents at Concordia, he and I were at Lazy Dog, and we started to talk about that vision, servant leaders. And we wondered, how could we go beyond the borders, the walls of Concordia University and prepare servant leaders in K-12 schools out in the community and across California and even across the country. And we started to map out some ideas about creating a Servant Leadership Institute. But then we didn't do anything with it. That was in 2016. It was just kind of a nice idea, kind of a topic to toss around. But then December of 2020, in the height of COVID, Hager and I ironically received an email from two representatives from the Kern Family Foundation up in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And their emphasis for that, or the motivation for having the conversation with us, is they wanted to see if there was a way to partner with them in equipping students in schools, in our School of Education, to become people of high character. Mr. Kern, the founder of the Generac generator, he and his wife have a foundation, and they're eager to give money to universities that are interested in helping their students become people of high character. So we saw a natural congruence between person of strong character and a servant leader, because it's really impossible to be an authentic servant leader in the absence of a strong character. So they asked us if we would be interested in formulating a grant proposal. And we thought that would be a really good thing to do because that might put some flesh on this vision of creating the Servant Leadership Institute. And the Lord was with us and led us to receive a very nice, very generous grant from the Kern Foundation in August of 2021. And that has provided the seed money to create the Servant Leadership Institute.
Now, is this for people in the School of Education program only, or is it for people outside of Concordia? How is it? Is it off and running yet? It sounds like you guys are still kind of on the ground level getting it going.
This grant, our vision is to attract and equip servant leaders in education, which means that we're trying to, first of all, do a great job with our students who enroll in our School of Education, in the teacher credential master's programs and the doctoral program. However, we want to go beyond what we're doing with our students, and we want to be of help to teachers, administrators, and counselors currently serving in the trenches. So we've really got two main initiatives, big initiatives that we're focusing on initially. Number one, we're creating a new master's in educational leadership in the School of Education with a specialization in social emotional learning, character, and ethics. It's our understanding that that specialization is going to be very attractive, and there's a big need for that specialization in today's schools, particularly with the stress and trauma that teachers and students are experiencing with COVID, the need to focus on social emotional learning, character, and ethics. So that's the first. And Dr. Kelly Albrecht, our executive director of the master's programs and now the assistant dean in the School of Education, she and her team have been working very hard to create this new master's program, which we will unveil in August of 2022. We'll have our first cohort of students. And then the second big initiative is we are preparing for an Educator Leadership Academy to be held on our campus May 20th through the 22nd for 3 days, a Friday night, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then 2 days in January of 2023. Mm-hmm. So there are 5 days where we are committing ourselves to bring a maximum of 60 teachers, administrators, or counselors to our campus to participate in 13 seminars. Wow. On exemplary leadership and character. And we're real eager to have them on our campus because we want to offer almost like an oasis for them today, because there's teachers, there's never been a tougher time in history, certainly not in my life, to be in education than it is right now because of the lingering pandemic. And so we want to create some kind of an oasis type feeling where they're going to get encouragement, support, and a recommitment to recommitment to their call to be a teacher in education, because there are a lot of people leaving the profession right now. So we hope it's going to be a real helpful experience, and we don't want to just dump information on them. Mm-hmm. These 5 days, we're also going to provide a leadership coach to walk alongside them once a month for 10 months so that they can dial in a Zoom chat and talk to their coach and receive, again, some encouragement, support, and mentoring. So anyway, we're real excited about it. I think the Lord is up to something really exciting right now, not just in the School of Education, but at Concordia University as a whole.
No doubt about that. That's coming up in May. Make sure to find out more information about that as we get closer to it. Let's go back to how you got into education and why you got into education. We're talking about a span now of your career that has gone 40 plus years, middle school, high school, collegiate level. You got your master's. You went and got your PhD from UCLA. Go Bruins. Right. I'm a Bruin myself. You're in the Hall of Fame at Concordia University, Irvine, for your success in guiding the women's basketball program to the tournament in multiple years and a great record there. Why? What got you into education in the first place?
Oh, thanks, Tim, for asking that question. I have to give a lot of credit to the coaches and teachers that were influential in my lifetime growing up in my kindergarten through 12th grade years. None more influential than my high school baseball coach from Denver Lutheran High School, Mr. Warren Kettner. There was a day when I've told this story in a number of venues, and it's a day that I still remember as clear as can be. I was batting in the bottom of the 7th inning my senior year, and there were 2 outs and a man at second and third base. And one little base hit from me would win the game.
Okay.
Just any game, it would have been Mr. Kettner's 100th victory. So I wanted to bear down and hit the ball because I love Mr. Kettner, as all the students in the school. We just had a super amount of respect for this man. He was just a humble, gentle giant of a man. But by God, Tim, I swung hard the first pitch, swung hard the second, and and struck out.
Oh,
And I don't remember one thing Mr. Kettner said in the locker room, but I know I was a very dejected 17-year-old adolescent. And I walked to the parking lot and sat in the corner with my girlfriend at the time, very dejected 17-year-old loser. And Mr. Kettner was the last guy out of the locker room, and he got into his Volkswagen. And I'm sitting in the corner, and he got in his Volkswagen. He drove out to the street to go home. And then for some reason, he made a U-turn, and he came back to where I was sitting. And he got out of his car, let his car run. He came up to me, and he stuck his hand out, and he said, "Slick, tomorrow's another day. Keep smiling, smiling." He patted me on the back, got in his car, and went home.
wow.
Tim, I remember that day as clear as can be. And it was that day that I realized that, gosh, if I could live my life and be a teacher and a coach and make an impression on young people, make a difference in their lives, I thought that was my calling in life. Because I was a dejected 17-year-old loser. And he made me feel pretty important and loved. So that's a kind of a pinnacle story in my life. There are other legends along the way as well that taught me that being a teacher and a coach was a noble calling in life.
Dr. Ken Schlichtemeier is our guest here, episode 35 of the Masters in Coaching podcast. He's the first ever director of the Servant Leadership Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. We are so glad to be speaking with him right now. The leadership part, we talk about coaching a lot here on the Masters in Coaching podcast and what it means to be a good coach. But the leadership is another thing that I think is really important, because you can be a person who can go out there and lead a team to X amount of wins, or you can be a coach that goes out there and isn't successful on the field or on the court, but it's the leadership that you provide to these student athletes and these young people, whatever the level is out there. Talk a little bit about the importance of leadership and winning and losing and being successful, not successful. The leadership part of this is a huge part.
You know, I like to define a good leader as someone who has the ability to cause change. And that's what I entered the teaching and coaching profession to do, to cause positive change in the lives of young people. And it's amazing the platform that coaches have to cause positive change. We have a huge platform, and we need to treat that with great respect and dignity, because we can really be tools of inspiration or tools of torture as we lead. And it comes down, in my opinion, Tim, to the character of the individual. Leadership begins with character. You can learn everything else away. And we at Concordia want to emphasize the servant leadership character, the servant character. You know, it's a lot easier to teach a servant how to be a good leader than it is to teach a leader how to be a servant. And the emphasis I've always felt as a coach was to try to inculcate positive values into the hearts of the athletes and the students that I've had the privilege of working with, so that they can develop strong character and hopefully adopt a posture in life of being a servant. When I coached, I tried to emphasize couple key values: honesty at the top, humility, and respect. John Wooden used to say, "Never lie, never cheat, never steal." It's very simple.
Yeah.
That's a good goal for all to try to embrace. It's hard to do. No one is perfect, but it's a very simple credo to follow. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. Again, as a leader who slips up in that area, sooner or later, everything's going to come crashing down if we give up some honesty. Warren Buffett said, "When you consider it takes a lifetime to build a positive reputation and 5 minutes to destroy it, you will do things differently." And well, I'll tell you, that quote humbles me every day.
Oh yeah.
It's an awesome, again, privilege and responsibility to be a leader. So leaders have a great platform in which to cause positive change. Coaches, it's amazing how attentive athletes are.
Oh yeah.
They respect their coaches. They want to play. They want to make the team. And we have a wonderful platform as coaches in athletics.
You stepped away from coaching and you're in the Hall of Fame because of your success at Concordia University, Irvine, the women's basketball program. But you stepped away to pursue that doctorate at UCLA in educational leadership. You mentioned Coach Wooden. Did you have a chance to come across him at all during that time? And how much do you lean and reflect on what Coach Wooden meant as far as a coach and a leader?
Oh, gosh. I have such respect for that man. Coach Wooden, I would, when I was getting my doctorate at UCLA, it was 93 to 96. Jim Herrick was a coach, and Jim was a friend of mine. I had coached basketball camps with him at Pepperdine when he was a head coach there. I was a junior high coach and high school coach, and he was nice enough to invite me to be one of his camp coaches. But I developed a good relationship with him. So I would go down and watch practices frequently and try to study at the same time. But I go to a lot of the games, and Coach Wooden would have his spot. Right there at the edge of the bleachers. And I would I'd be mesmerized just watching him, just his posture and his demeanor, his poise, and how he took time to interact with different people. It was magical. So as a graduate student, I watched Coach Wooden in action. But then Jim Kunow, the director of the Masters in Coaching Athletic Administration program, who you know, Tim, he and I had a rare privilege to have lunch with Coach 3 days before his 96th birthday.
Wow.
Favorite restaurant in Encino. We had been a part of there was a fundraising auction item, and we were fortunate enough to be invited. There were 5 men, Coach Wooden and Vince Ferragamo, at the table at his favorite restaurant. And we're sitting, the 5 of us with Vince Ferragamo were at the table, and Coach Wooden walked in with his blue cardigan sweater and his cane. And I'm telling you, it was like he sucked the air out of the restaurant. I mean, it was just magical to see this humble man walking slowly into the restaurant. He sat across from me, and we had the most delightful conversation for 2 hours in that restaurant. And one of the highlights of that, I could tell you a lot of things about that lunch, but the one thing I want to tell you, Tim, is that at the end of the lunch, I asked if he would mind signing his autograph for my 2 children. They were very young at the time. And he said, I'd be happy to. So I went around to his side of the table and I gave him some paper, and he was writing a paragraph, for my kids and signing. And while he's doing that, I said, Coach, I got to tell you, I've spoken about you in many speeches that I've given over the years, sports banquets or graduations. I always tell the story about how when you coach at UCLA, you would keep a cross in your pocket. And when you'd feel like you were getting a little irritated at the referees and might want to say something you'd regret, you'd reach into your pocket and put your hand on that cross. And as I'm telling him the story, he puts down the pen and he reaches into the pocket and he pulls that cross down on the table. And what I realized there on that day, 3 days before his 96th birthday, is that little story of the cross in the pocket was not some little creative anecdote to sell in a book. That was a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
So I can assure you, when Coach Wooden at Ronald Reagan Hospital transitioned to heaven in 1989, I can assure you that cross was right there in that room because it was a lifestyle.
No doubt about it.
He was
faith. He was a great guy.
Yep.
Just a great man. So
very, very humble.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for sharing more about you. Thank you for sharing the story about Coach Wooden, and certainly looking forward to the big things with the Servant Leadership Institute. You guys are off and running with that. They got the Academy coming up in May. Go to Concordia's website to find out more about that through the School of Education. We can't thank you enough for your time, and we look forward to doing this again.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's been a real honor to talk to you today. Thank you.